What does a dark, high fantasy, and crushingly difficult RPG have in common with a dad's simulated hiking trip with his son through Zion National Park? Nothing. Nothing at all. Thanks for watching. No, wait. Turns out there is one pivotal element to each game's design, which binds the two together, and which creates a sort of meta-commentary to our real life, and that is the respective game's asynchronous multiplayer component. Asynchronous is simply defined as not simultaneous or concurrent in time.
We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure.
We all experience these types of asynchronous interactions every day in the digital era. Every text you send, every thumbs up you give to a YouTube video, it all represents forms of communication where the parties don't have to be in the same place at the same time to effectively communicate. We live in a world where we witness the ghosts of messages left in the past, and then send similar messages back out into the ether, and leave it for a future wayfarer to see and to respond to. In video games, the two most resonant and well-adopted examples of asynchronous multiplayer can be found in From Software's Dark Souls series and related Souls-like games, and Kojima Productions' Death Stranding. While the two share this common component of having asynchronous multiplayer, the delivery of the mechanics vary slightly, both in terms of gameplay and in terms of the ethos that each option offers. Let's go through each game and introduce what options there are for asynchronous communication and assistance. Dark Souls, a game and franchise that needs absolutely no introduction, was released in 2011. Awarded the title of Ultimate Game of All Time by Joystick, Dark Souls is undeniably one of the greatest. Typically praised for its stellar level design, fascinating and deeply rewarding exploration, and bombastic boss fights. However, there's one little element of Dark Souls which was more passive in its execution, but undeniably shaped the atmosphere and experience of playing Dark Souls more than people tend to give it credit for. That is, the asynchronous multiplayer. In Dark Souls, you can leave messages for other players to read throughout their journey. Many times on your journey, you'll come across such messages, usually subtly pointing the player in the right direction of a secret area, hidden walls, ambush spots, and so on. What's brilliant about this system is that it's not something where the messages open up a keyboard and you can type, "Hey dumbass, there's archers in the next room." No, instead the game has pre-selected phrases, subjects, and verbs for you to use to madlib your own message. This means that there's a certain thematic consistency with each message you encounter. It's what makes the experience of seeing a message reading, "Great chest ahead," pretty similar to some actually helpful advice about an illusory wall or a potential hidden item. You are leaving breadcrumbs for other players to follow, or ignore, or just read and move on, completely indifferent to their substance. If you've ever left a message on any of the Souls games, chances are very high that you influenced another player in some form, from who knows how far away, and who knows how long ago. It is very much a single-player experience, but yet, all players experience it differently, and all are shaped by the messages they read along the way. However, this messaging system is not simply limited to uplifting and helpful advice, but can also be used maliciously to lead players into a false confidence and even suggest literal suicide in hopes of some secret area. From Software gave the players the power to communicate with each other and didn't try to shoehorn in any sort of forced morality into the system. A message telling you to jump may lead to a secret with a bonus item, or it may compel you to literally jump to your death because some stranger on the internet told you to. Dark Souls also features a variety of more typical, but also important multiplayer components. For instance, while playing, you can see a spectral version of other players in real time proceeding through the world. Then there's the summoning system, where you can call on strangers across time to briefly join your game and help you trek through an area, or assist you in a challenging boss fight. It is well documented that Miyazaki found inspiration for this mechanic when he was stuck in a snowstorm and random strangers all helped each other up an icy hill. No words were spoken, no lifelong friendships formed, just a common enemy, and people willing to aid others and be aided in return. Chances are high that those individuals never saw each other again, never reminisced on their misfortunes, but yet, for a brief period of time and space, they shared a battlefield and conquered a boss.
The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined.
You can also see the blood splatters of other players, a grim warning of dangers that may lay ahead. or sometimes a comical reprieve seeing the lighthearted misfortunes of others. Except for the blood splatters, these are not asynchronous because the players will, albeit briefly, occupy the same space and time, but they are nonetheless pivotal to Dark Souls being a truly isolating experience, which in practice isn't that isolating at all if you look for help and take it as it comes. We all experience life alone. Whether you are surrounded by friends or family, or have little to no friends, we all walk through this life as an individual. We only know our own perspective. We can only touch what we can reach. We are the harbingers of our own futures and can only accomplish what we, as individuals, decide to act on. This is not to discount the role that others can have on our destiny. Having close friends and family can lead to rich experiences and a life full of happiness. Empathy is not removed from the equation simply based on an individualist perspective, that we are the forgers of our own paths. It's still important to know that, while we operate alone in our experience in life, we do so knowing full well that the world is filled with billions of souls, all operating from a common set of rules. And yet, we are all inevitably shaped by the groundwork laid before us by others. The principles we are taught by those who raised us, the lessons learned through our successes and our failures, all amount to a unique life of which no two are the same. In Dark Souls, the same thing can be said. Despite the fact that every game starts with the Asylum Demon and ends with Gwyn, the paths that each player walks and the stories that they pick up along the way are all baroque and one of a kind to them. And that, in a nutshell, is the feeling that Dark Souls evokes. It's this sense of wonderment, of not knowing the path ahead, but walking it anyway, knowing that countless other people were in your shoes. Wanting to conquer a mountain through your own individual steps, yet subtly guided by the trail of countless others who all came from the same circumstances as yourself, creates an undeniable sense of gratitude for your own ability and wherewithal, but also respect for those whom you will never know, but have helped shape your path. It's an experience completely isolating in nature, but yet desperately attached to this idea that it is, in fact, a shared experience. We read messages left by others, perhaps many months or years ago, and follow them, whether for good or for bad. A real-life example I can give is from the summer of 2023. My now wife and I took a trip to Acadia National Park in Maine for a bit of hiking and camping. We woke up at 3 in the morning and drove for about 20 minutes to the trailhead. The goal was to hike up Mount Cadillac in the pitch darkness and summit the meager 1,530-foot mountain in time to see the sunrise around 5 a.m. Being that it was pitch dark outside, our only means of sight, and therefore navigation, were our headlamps. If you have ever been outside, especially in the woods, in the dead of night, then you know how disorientating it can feel. The woods around you all of a sudden feel so labyrinthian, it's incredibly hard to discern any notable landmarks. The whole of the woods feels so foreign, and it all looks the same, which can make navigation a struggle. We knew generally where the trailhead was, and the broad direction that we needed to travel in, but in terms of moment-to-moment movement, we had no idea. We walked along what we thought was the trail for what seemed like an eternity. Not knowing if the path we were treading would lead us to our destination, we put our faith in our own 2 feet to keep us heading toward what we thought was the destination. That is, until we spotted a barely noticeable marking on a rock, a small bit of spray paint, an indication that someone has walked this path before and were leading us ahead. A message left God knows how long ago served as a North Star for our journey. We experienced a very isolated hike up Mount Cadillac, but yet we nonetheless felt the touch and influence of those before us guiding our paths. Our footsteps were our own, but we accepted the help laid before us. And this help was not in the form of a guide saying, stay left at the tree line and follow the rocks up. It was just a spray-painted mark on a rock, barely noticeable to those who were not ready to receive aid. So we followed the tag and continued on our journey. 10 minutes would go by where we wouldn't see another mark. Anxious thoughts entered our brains. Did we steer off course? Did we lose the trail? And like a summer rain shower, our fears and anxiety washed away as we came across the next painted rock, again letting us know that we were headed in the right direction. The trail markings came and went as we progressed up the mountain, but the more we saw, the more confident we were that the trail we instinctively followed was the one carved out by those before us. We reached the summit at 5 a.m. and got to witness the sunrise, the first place that the sun touches in the continental United States. I did some meditations and offered my thanks to the sunrise, the only way I knew how. Praise the sun echoed in my mind as I recounted all the countless times that I was privy to the celestial incandescence of the sun, both through the medium of Dark Souls and in my time on this earth.
Oh, hello there. I will stay behind to gaze at the sun. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
I still think about those trail markings, especially in relation to the messages that you will come across as you travel your way across Lordran. I will never know who left those messages, probably some ranger who had seen one too many hikers lose their way in the pitch darkness trying to summon Mount Cadillac in time for the sunrise. I will never get the opportunity to thank them for carving the path, and being a beacon of serenity for those who came after. And for me, this is one of the most beautiful aspects of it. They undoubtedly left those markings and messages with no real ability to fathom the number of people that they would impact. We were guided by the help of others and accepted it in return. There are also ample opportunities in life for you to be the guiding light in another's journey, and we should all revere these opportunities and place deep respect in the responsibility that is entrusted to us in these moments. In Dark Souls, there's a profound sense of duty to willingly enter into the world of another player as a summon and help them overcome whatever obstacle may be in their way. In Dark Souls 2, I remember constantly placing my summon sign at the final fog gate to the last boss in order to be summoned for Covenant items. What I experienced was a plethora of characters geared up to conquer the game's final challenge. I didn't know if the players that summoned me were on a first playthrough or a 50th, but it didn't matter. I could, however, usually tell by their body language, which sounds weird in a video game, whether or not they were seasoned veterans of the game, or whether they were new players trying to get their first clear. Regardless, I felt a duty to give it my all, to stay alive to help them further, and to sacrifice myself if it meant that the host was afforded but a few fleeting moments to recover and gear up to deliver the final blow. I would never know whether they succeeded or not, would never meet up over a beer to share our war stories. I was but a ghost of aid in their quest to see the credits, and for me, that was enough. In Maine, we also got the opportunity to experience being a phantom in another's world. It was getting dangerously close to sunset, and my wife and I decided to hike up the local community's pick for the hardest hike, Precipice. The hike was spectacular, featuring big overhangs, rebar ladders up the side of steep cliffs. It was the perfect level of challenging and rewarding, much like any good Dark Souls level. While we were hiking up the trail, we saw a group of 4 people, 2 dudes and 2 women. They were dressed in total chic streetwear fit for the Brooklyn neighborhood they were based out of. My wife and I were meanwhile decked out in all hiking gear, boots, and equipped with plenty of water. We laughed at the duality of our 2 groups as competing styles, and our polar opposite mindsets about the hike. We get to the top, we enjoy a nice moment together as the sun sets, and then we begin our trek down the mountain to make it back before sunset. Before we could even get 100 feet down the trail leading down, we heard somebody call out, "Hello?" My wife responded asking if they were okay. They very politely asked for directions to the trail that leads down. We pointed them in the right direction and went about our way. A few minutes later, I hear the pitter-patter of footsteps behind me. It was one of the guys trailing our paths way too close to be happenstance. We didn't think much of it and kept going. As we got further down, we realized that one of the guys was keeping real close to our tail, while the other guy hung back within vision to escort the girls and keep everybody in the right path. My wife went to scout ahead, and me and this random stranger were hiking down together. Eventually, I worked up a conversation with him. I don't even remember his name. I believe it was Lee. Regardless, he told me that this was the group's first day in Acadia, and even funnier was that they hadn't even gone to their hotel or campsite yet. They were driving in, wanted to get a quick hike in, and found themselves on one of the hardest hikes that Acadia has to offer. He explained that was why they were all dressed in street clothes with no water. They thought it would be a quick hike and call it good. After understanding their plight, it became a bit of a lighthearted joke. Here we were, having heard stories about this hike, and having come extremely prepped and amped for a grueling affair, together with a group of friends who couldn't be more opposite. And yet, for a brief period in time, our fates were intertwined as we worked together to make our way down the mountain. We shared our water, commiserated with their struggle, and formed a strong short-term bond. We got them to the bottom, they thanked us, and we took a selfie together, and then we all went about our merry way. Forever bonded by a journey together, but yet destined to drift away from each other and continue on our own paths. In Dark Souls, we face similar challenges. A boss will be an obstacle to our progression, but yet, you always have the option to summon another phantom in order to assist you. Your shared time may be limited, but together you share in a common struggle and battle. After the battle is won, or a hero is felled, the connection is severed. Despite what wondrous journeys two people may have shared together, or what awe-inspiring boss two people might have conquered, it always ends the same way, with a faint memory of a shared experience together, and the knowledge that if you ask for help, you can receive it. This brings me to Death Stranding. Released in 2019 by visionary Hideo Kojima and his flagship studio, Death Stranding's almost sole focus is on the rebuilding of lost connections between increasingly isolated pockets of humanity against an apocalyptic world. Sure, there is an overarching battle against remnants of the dead bleeding into the mortal world, but the vast majority of Death Stranding is comprised of walking around a mostly barren world to connect different outposts to the World Wide Web. I mean, chiral network. Unlike Dark Souls, Death Stranding's whole point is the connections you build, both with the NPCs in the game and also with the real-world players who aid you along your journey and whom you aid. The enemies in Death Stranding are the routes you take, the supplies you pack, and the unique means that you utilize to traverse the ever-increasingly difficult terrain. Your first journey through an area is a hauntingly isolating experience. You are left all alone to traverse and make your way to the next shelter to connect it to the chiral network. The only resources you have are the ones you packed or the ones that you may stumble across on your journey. However, once the area is connected to the chiral network, the real asynchronous multiplayer component of Death Stranding takes hold. The area populates with a plethora of player-generated structures. These structures are built by one player, but can be utilized by countless others. For instance, you may find a conveniently built bridge over a deep river that you need to traverse. Another player's foresight and resource expense all of a sudden serves as an instrumental shortcut for countless other players needing to make that same trek. In the moment, the building player may need a bridge for their own purposes, but it snowballs into a core landmark of the terrain for so many other porters who could then use and rely on that structure to always have a safe trek across that river. Players can even upgrade their structures for more durability and the option to add their own personal flair. They can add their own music to structures, and for future players utilizing the structures, they get a small taste of the charitable stranger's favorite tracks from the game's amazing soundtrack. You can also leave little signposts anywhere as a sign to either guide players to a helpful path or to inspire them to keep on keeping on. Sometimes it's fun to see signs in extremely hard to reach places. It reminds me of graffiti tags that we have all seen. Sometimes I see a tag and wonder, how in the hell did the artist make their way up there to tag it? It's a ghost of another's creative vision, an echo of the past, and a reminder that others have been here before. I live in New York City, so there's no shortage of reminders of fun signs left by other porters. Wherever you go, you'll always see tags or stickers plastering the city's public infrastructure, and it always cheers me up because it's a completely wholesome glimpse into the humanity of others and their desire to leave something lasting in the world. Death Stranding also features lost cargo. Many times, you'll come across cargo dropped by another player, and if you pick it up, you're tasked with carrying on the torch to deliver it to its destination. What is particularly interesting about this system is that each bit of lost cargo evokes curiosity as to the story of the other Sam, from some other time and some other space, and the circumstances of which they left their cargo behind. Did they simply run out of space and had to ditch something for their own survival? Did they tumble down a steep hill and this is just the remnants of the cargo that wasn't found? Regardless, pick it up and deliver it to its destination, if you have the means. And if not, someone else may take it with them. These bits of lost cargo may also be tools to help with navigation. I remember trekking up the highest peak in Death Stranding 2, and I had run out of ladders. I tried and tried to Skyrim horse my way up the mountain, but to no avail. That was until I used my Orodex scanner and saw a shining beacon of hope, somebody else's lost ladder. I took a detour to get the ladder and eventually was able to summit the mountain. What's absolutely incredible is that there's absolutely no point in climbing the mountain peak. There is no gear, no upgrade, no trophy, but yet it is one of the most satisfying things you can do in the game because it provokes those same emotions as hiking in real life, in conquering and navigating up rugged terrain where the only reward is a sense of accomplishment and a kick-ass view. Much like the messages present in Dark Souls, these signs of life come as a welcome reprieve to an otherwise lonely journey. A reminder that, although you are playing a video game alone, there are tens of thousands of other players just like you also experiencing this isolating journey. Thus, you never really feel alone in either Dark Souls or Death Stranding. Now with Death Stranding, unlike Dark Souls, there is no real avenue to enact antagonistic or misleading behavior. You cannot invade others to hamper their progress, and it would be seriously difficult to mess with another player with a message like "jump" from the highest cliff. Generally, Death Stranding gave me a profound sense of respect for postmen, and those whose careers are based on transporting of goods to others. We live in a world where almost all of our material desires can be shipped to our house in a matter of days. This experience is not in a vacuum, as there is an entire infrastructure built around moving such goods. We might never know our mailman's name, nor even know their struggle, but through Death Stranding, we have a glimpse into their journey, and with that, we may be able to appreciate the magic of delivery a little bit more. In fact, Death Stranding's relatively choresome core gameplay loop has led me to change my perspective on ordinary chores. Trips to the grocery store are no longer a hassle, and I often think of Death Stranding while I trek my way back home after picking up provisions, loaded up on each shoulder. We also have the opportunity to appreciate the side quest. Have you ever misplaced your wallet or your phone and found that some good Samaritan had picked it up and saw it through that it made its back to its rightful home? I think most people have experienced this, and it's a welcome sight whenever we experience the generosity of strangers doing the right thing and returning lost cargo to its proper destination. And I urge everyone that whenever a side quest pops up, you accept it. Whenever some lost cargo finds its way into your possession, that you take the extra effort to be a porter and see it back to its proper destination, because that is how we as humans connect with each other. Both Dark Souls and Death Stranding, despite not having much in common with each other, offer a unique perspective into the humanity of helping a fellow human being. Even if helping someone means a brief encounter, a tip of the cap, a short thanks, we as humans nonetheless derive great pleasure and appreciation from being able to contribute but a small part to another's epic adventure through life. Thanks for watching.